Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Kim and I am a engineer in the tech industry. I've been an engineer in the tech industry for 13 plus years, and I wanted to make just a quick video about talking about my experience as a Black woman in the tech industry for as long as I have. I've worked at small startups and I've worked at really large billion-dollar companies and everywhere in between. And I just wanted to share my experience to help shed some light if you're curious about what it's like. And I'm gonna be honest, I tried to record this video already before and it sounded really like preachy and like know-it-all-y, and so I'm really gonna try to just like, I don't know, just be as genuine as I can without acting like I know everything, because I clearly don't. But I've also been in the tech industry a long time and I've seen a lot of things, so just keep that in mind. With that being said, I asked ChatGPT like what are the top 5 questions people might ask, and so we're just gonna read those questions and give my response and hopefully keep this video under 20 minutes. Wish me luck. Okay, let's go. How did you get into the tech industry, and were there any specific challenges you faced as a Black woman? I got into the tech industry immediately, like even before I graduated from college. So I have 2 degrees, I have a bachelor's and a master's in computer science, and I was working like as an adjunct professor while I was working on my master's, and then I also had a part-time job like for the state, and then working at EA, the game testing company. So that's kind of how I got started, and that's honestly like one of the best ways to get started in QA if you're near like a game testing center or like video game testing, because those jobs are a dime a dozen, but it's going to get you your foot in the door, it gets you experience, all that stuff. There weren't any challenges that I faced getting into the industry as a Black woman. I went to college in a very Black city. I would say the challenges I faced getting into video game testing and getting in the tech industry did not have to do with the fact that I was a Black woman. It had more to do with the fact that I was a woman, because if you know anything about EA, like yeah, they make a couple titles that are like family friendly, like The Sims. I don't know what other big titles EA has done since then, but most of their titles are your sports titles. So Madden was big when I started, NBA Live, Tiger Woods PGA Tour. These were all games that I tested when I first started. And so the men on those projects were looking at me like, what do you know about playing Madden? You know, so most of my challenges weren't related to me getting in the door. It was more related to me like working with my teammates, because they just didn't see me as a valuable tester because I was not good at playing those games or testing those games. So the interview process was not hard at all. That was how I got into the industry. And then like 6 months later, no, it's probably like a year later, I interviewed for a position clear across the country testing games with Microsoft. It was all a phone interview, nailed that interview, flew out here sight unseen, and I've been in Portland ever since. And I will say that like probably every job that I have applied for, I don't think I faced any challenges like as a Black woman trying to get that position. It was more like, are you like experienced enough? So there's that. Also, I will say I have a bachelor's and a master's in computer science. I'm not gonna say you need one, but like on paper, it looks really great. These days, tech was way easier to get into, y'all, 14 years ago. Way easier. Now it is, you're gonna battle. And your competition is not just other people in the US with degrees, it's people from other countries with degrees that are working way harder or whatever. So the fact that I have 2 degrees definitely opened a lot more doors, I think, than if it didn't. I'm just trying to make sure my hairline's not showing, y'all, because you know the wig be wigging. Question number 2, what advice would you give to young Black women who are interested in pursuing a career in tech? What advice would I give? I gotta word this nicely. Oh, how do I word this nicely? Y'all, I'm in a lot of tech groups for Black women, and there's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use the word acting like victims, but not everything is because you're a Black woman, and that's what I will leave there. Do not go into the tech industry thinking that things are going to be harder because you're a Black woman, or you're not going to get a job because someone was a white guy. Because I have gotten promotions, I have been offered promotions and roles 3 positions higher than mine, and skipped over qualified white men because they thought I would be a better fit for the role. And so I say all that to say, like, if you go into a job interview, you go into a company thinking that like Susie is going to get this promotion because she's a white woman, or like Billy is going to get this promotion because he's a white dude. Like, you are setting yourself up for failure because you are doubting your abilities, you're doubting your skills, and you're already telling yourself that like it's not going to happen. And I would really encourage you to move throughout your career as if you are doing the best that you can do and you're doing it better than other people, and no one else is going to do a better job than you. I think that's something that has worked well for me over my career, is because I would go into work and I would look for things that were not being done. I would come up with ideas that people were not thinking of, and I would solve problems that people weren't thinking to solve or didn't want to solve. And that puts you in a position to where you are outperforming other people. And so it is hard for people to be like, well, like Kim, why would I promote Jason over Kim when Kim is out here like outworking Jason? That's just what I'll say there. Like, I went to work early in my career. I would go to work every day and be like, you're not gonna write better bugs than me. You're not gonna engineer test cases better than me. You're not going to spend time thinking through how to solve this problem because you don't think like I do. And I don't want to say I did that because I felt like I had to work harder than other people. And I didn't do that to say like I feel like I had to work harder than other people because I was a Black woman. I just had to work harder than other people because that's how you stand out, you know? And now, like I said, your competition is fierce. They can code faster than us. They can code better than us. They have families to support. Like, the competition is coming from all over the place. And so you have to outperform other people and you have to be better than other people. And if you go into a situation thinking that like I'm already behind because of how I look, that's self-deprecating talk. And I don't believe in that. I don't prescribe to that. I don't entertain that. And the moment I move on, because like that's not going to get anyone anywhere. So that's the biggest advice that I would give you, is like, don't go into it thinking that it's going to be harder because you're a Black woman. The other thing I'll say is build good relationship with the people right now. Get yourself a LinkedIn, dial in your LinkedIn. I talk about dialing in your LinkedIn a lot. I've already got videos on my channel, so feel free to check those out. But like, dial that in, start building a network. Your network is going to help you get more jobs than cold applying to positions. Like, cold applying, that doesn't really work anymore. Go to tech events, go to meetup events, meet people, expand your horizons, learn how to be a team player, and seek mentors to help you kind of get comfortable with yourself, comfortable with talking, comfortable with tech, and hopefully that opens up doors for you. Oh, the other thing I will say, especially if you want to be like an engineer in tech, learn how to teach yourself stuff without other people teaching it to you. Learn how to be self-directed, learn how to Google, learn how to use ChatGPT. Lord, y'all, if I had ChatGPT like 10 years ago, I'd own a business by now. The way that it solves problems, the way that it helps break down code, the way that it does so much stuff. Like, if you can learn to be resourceful and learn and grasp information without like training per se, you're gonna be leagues ahead of so many other people that rely on like explicit training. Because a big part of tech, especially engineering, is like, can you learn it on your own, or does someone have to teach it to you? Because if you can learn it on your own, it is really, really attractive and valuable to companies, especially smaller ones if you're looking for startups. Have you ever experienced discriminations or microaggressions in your tech career? If you have, how did you handle those situations? I will be totally honest, friends. In my 14 years of experience, I have never once felt like I was discriminated against because I was a Black woman. But not because I was a Black woman. I never really felt like people treated me differently or like said things to me that were like from a stereotype, or like put me in a box, or like anything like that. And I've worked at a lot of companies where I was the only Black woman in the office or at the entire company. I don't know. I've never experienced that. I think part of that also, I've tried to be like a person at the company that people enjoy working with, that people get to know. And so I'm very personable. I try to be a good teammate. I try to make sure that my teammates have a good time with me. We laugh. I get to know them. And so when they know me on a more personal level, I think that goes a long way. As well as like, my teammates would go to bat for me if something came up, and I wouldn't necessarily feel like I had to defend myself in a meeting when I would come up with a proposal for something, for example. My teammates would they would, I don't know, they would defend me and my ideas because they respected me and we got along pretty well. What else? There have been times where I felt like a company in general didn't really value the diverse makeup that it had of women or black people or whatever. And that was more like a company-wide policy, like choosing not to observe certain holidays, for example, but observing others. Just felt kind of weird. I don't know, y'all. I've never felt like I was discriminated against or had a microaggression. I don't know. And I think this goes back to like, I try to be like the best person, especially when it came to QA. I try to be the best QA person at the company. So it would be hard to challenge me, or it would be hard to have a problem with me. It would be hard to go against me. It would be hard to like do nice, nasty stuff because my teammates respected me and they valued me. And that's just kind of how I've operated myself. Maybe that's how I haven't run into things. I don't know. Maybe I just work with like chill people. I have no idea. I'm sorry. I can't answer that. I can't help you if you have. Like, go to your manager. I don't know. I haven't had it. 14 years, I haven't. I'm sorry. I worked at some big companies, y'all, and EA was the one where it was like, oh, you're a woman, you can't play Madden. But like, they didn't care that I was black. If anything, people were like, oh, yes, not another Brad. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced as a black woman in leadership position within the tech industry? I don't think this was related to the fact that I was a black woman, and I don't think there's been any like racial or gender biases when it comes to leadership. At two separate companies, y'all, I was offered a director level position at two separate companies. And one of these companies is really big, y'all. And like my managers were white men, but like the CTO or the CEO was like, I'd like to make you a director. Looking past the fact that these two white men existed, right? I don't know what that says about me, but like, and I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but I think, like I said, if you operate like I'm gonna do the best job I can and no one's gonna outwork me and people like working with me, it's gonna make it hard for you to get turned down or passed up for leadership positions. At the one company where the CTO reached out to me directly, that director position was a backfill and that director was leaving to go to another company. And the CTO asked him, if we had to replace your spot tomorrow, who do you recommend? And they were like, Kim. And it was like, me? What? Racial bias? Like, this was a big company, like there was like 4 or 5 other qualified white men he could have chosen. You know what I mean? The CEO at the other company I mentioned, like there was already a manager in place. They were gonna make a director position for me at this company. Didn't exist. So I don't know, the opportunities are there. You just gotta outwork people. Other than that, like the only other challenges I faced within leadership, I wasn't a leader, I was an individual contributor, but sometimes when you go against people and they aren't buying into what you're trying to do. So say you're trying to like change a process or like implement something new, people don't always like change. And so you're gonna get a lot of resistance. You gotta learn how to deal with negative feedback, pushback. You gotta learn how to convince people. You gotta learn how to get people on your side, and you gotta learn how to stay level-headed and accept criticism and critique in your plans and ideas, and be able to come back to that same person that gave you criticism or critique and be able to have a dialogue with them and find some middle ground, which can be really hard if you feel like you're constantly being attacked, which goes back to the like thinking that everyone's out to get you and like being a black woman is a hindrance more than a positive. And like if you go into your job or your career with that mindset, you're going to be on the defense a lot, and you got to learn how to be on the offense and learn how to work with people and take criticism, because that criticism is going to make you stronger, it's going to make you better, and it's going to set you apart from other people who don't know how to take that feedback. So I've gotten feedback on plans I've had that people didn't like and they poked a lot of holes in, and I said, okay, I realized I didn't understand that angle when I was coming up with this plan, and I appreciate the feedback. Let me come back to the table with another idea. And that's a better way than navigating the workplace and having conflict than just going back and being like, well, people didn't like my ideas because I'm a black woman. Or people don't want to do this because I'm a black woman. Remove that element from it and see if there was area for improvement, or if this person is giving legitimate feedback. Because I see this a lot, y'all, and I hate to bring this up, but I see this a lot in like posts I read where people just like immediately think that like someone critiqued them or they didn't get a promotion or like whatever because they were a black woman, instead of like being able to do some self-introspection and seeing where you stack up against what was being asked. So yeah, it's hard to say that because I don't want to ever downplay anyone's experiences, but I only have my own anecdotal experience to go off of. And again, I'm gonna go back to the 2 times where they were trying to backfill me for a position. Neither of those positions I was qualified for, neither one, which is why I didn't take them. But I don't want to be a director. I don't. But they wanted me to be, you know what I mean? Over so many other people. And so I think about that and I look at like what set me up for that and how do I share this with other people so they too can also have that experience, because it's a great feeling. So, okay, how can we create a more inclusive and equitable tech industry for Black women? Education, outreach. I feel like people still sometimes look at tech like it's just like full of like rich, white dudes in Silicon Valley, and that's like not it at all. There's some really, really talented, smart people, but I think we need to do a lot more education, especially in very urban areas that have a high density of Black women. More tech companies need to go to HBCUs to get more education to Black women about like tech isn't just about like software engineering, or it's not just about like robots. Like there's more to it. It's not also just AI. I'm sick of the AI conversation, but it's so much more than that. And getting people comfortable with the idea that like it is not uncomfortable to be a Black woman in this space. That's one of the biggest things I think, is like just talking more about the positive experiences to encourage more Black women to get into this space, because it's not all bad, it's not all negative. Most of my experiences have been great. I make great money. I've made lifelong friends. Like I've worked on some really, really cool, impactful things. And it is, while it can be a volatile industry at times, I think it's one of the most, I'm biased. I think it's the best industry, because look, I'm sitting at home chilling in my house. I get to work from home. I get to work on cool stuff. I get to learn and grow and work alongside some really, really smart people and make a really big impact. So bringing more awareness to that and talking about the positives in the tech industry as a Black woman, I think will help make it more inclusive. Mentorships and sponsorships, I think more seasoned women in the tech industry can definitely become more mentors to more junior women trying to get into the industry. I myself am one of those people. I've had people reach out to me to like be a mentor. I think once I'm in my new office, like I'll be more capable of having like a dedicated space to do mentorships and come up with the plan for how to mentor people. I've been wanting to mentor Black women and wanting to get into QA and like be better at QA and like strengthen that. So I think more older Black women can do more. More companies should sponsor more tech events to bring more Black women to them. I think companies should be reaching out to high schools to be trying to like get more Black women in the tech industry. I think companies, okay, this is the other thing. A lot of companies are getting rid of the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm not going to speak on that. And I don't know how you hire more people to have a more diverse team without explicitly hiring for more diversity, if that makes sense. So the challenge that I've always seen is like, how do you get more Black women at a company without explicitly saying, I'm going to hire this Black woman over this other person? You know what I mean? Because if I'm hiring at a company, I absolutely want to have the most diverse looking, unique team I can, but I also want the best people that I can. So if we can get more great Black women to apply at companies, naturally we would have more diverse hiring practices, because I wouldn't necessarily want to hire someone off of race, because we don't want the inverse. We don't want people to hire someone because, they're a white dude, right? So I don't know how you do that. I really don't know. It's a big challenge. It was something I brought up at a previous company in an anonymous survey, as I was like, I'm tired of being the only Black person. I literally said that. I said, I am tired of being the only Black person here. It's like, can we get some Hispanics in here? Can we get some Native American people? Like literally anybody? But like, how do you do that? You as a company have to target specific regions or specific areas or specific job boards or specific schools, for example. So I could see it as, if a company wanted more Black women, I don't know, I'm gonna do a hiring event at HBCU and say, hey, we're hiring, and we'll get a lot more women applying that are Black. I guess that's how you do it, right? That's how you do it. Okay, companies start doing it right now. Okay, and then other things that we could do, company policies, we can add more like ERGs, initiatives, things to highlight the differences between us. As much as I would love for my skin color and my gender to not be a factor and to not matter, sometimes it brings a perspective that other people just don't have, because my experiences, because of how I look, are going to be different than other people. Unfortunately, oftentimes for the good, but like sometimes for the bad. And we could implement more awareness of these things. So I worked at a company, a very large company. They had a lot of ERGs, and they had one for African American people. And the first week I started was in February, and they had this week that was called like the Black Family Reunion, where they invited every Black person at the company. They did random Zoom room breakouts, and we all got to know each other. So I got to talk to people way in another state, in another department I'd never heard of. And we got to know each other better, and we did like really fun like Black history trivia, not like, what year was Martin Luther King assassinated, but it was like unique trivia that I'd never heard before about like Black history. I think incorporating those kinds of things into recognizing that we are different, there are some things worth talking about and worth encouraging, could be a great way to promote comfort and acceptance and awareness at the company when it comes to Black women. So bring that to your company. I would love to hear about your experiences as a Black woman in the tech industry, or any concerns you might have if you're just starting out or you're thinking about getting in the tech industry, and be able to have a dialogue about it. I hope I didn't ruffle any feathers or like minimize anyone's experiences. Again, I'm just talking about my anecdotal experience, which is just for the most part been really great. I've never thought about leaving this industry. There have been people I have not enjoyed working with. There's been companies I have absolutely run away from. But overall, my experience being a Black engineer in the tech industry for 14 years has been overall positive. It has afforded me a lifestyle that has led me to be comfortable and spend time with my family and travel and learn new things and apply these skills to YouTube, and to share this information with other people to help people get jobs. And it's just been really rewarding, and I hope that every Black woman gets that same experience. But I also want people to not feel afraid that they won't have a good experience, and to also hear some of the positives as well. So I hope this video was helpful. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have any questions, of course, please leave a comment. Please make sure to leave any feedback you have, and if you have any questions, leave those as well. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. If you want to check out any more videos from me, this video right here, I think it's actually probably gonna be a good one, so you should check this one out next. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Bye.